What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 9 of Keeping It Real with Kiesel. Little late start this time, but it's okay. I've been busy with work and outside things, so just appreciative to have the time to sit down and talk to everybody. Like I said, I always like to thank everyone that's been reaching and listening over the last couple weeks. Can't believe we're 9 episodes in. It feels like it's been pretty quick 9 weeks more than anything, but I appreciate those, especially when it's been across the globe. Obviously here in the U.S., Barbados, Nigeria, Germany, Australia, Netherlands, Canada. So many different people from different parts of the world are tuning in and listening, so I definitely appreciate you guys that are consistently doing it, especially watching on the YouTube channel as well. This topic is an interesting one, right? Because I was literally just sitting down with some of my coworkers. We were at Topgolf, and we were talking about, the college experience, right? And we're sitting there, we're talking. I'm just like, not the, partying and fun and stuff like that side of it, but more of the what did college prepare me for side of it, right? And this isn't a bash on on teachers or professors or anything like that, because obviously you guys are shaping the minds of tomorrow today, and obviously trying to instill so much knowledge into them in terms of the subject or major or things like that. For me, I feel like I'm a little bit different, right? Obviously for those that don't know me, I played professional soccer for a few years, and then currently I'm in, a marketing and sales role right now, working with a Fortune 500, Fortune 100 to 500 clients or whatever. And I think one of the things that I feel like I've missed out on, or I wasn't taught, whether in high school or in college, were kind of like the things that we outsource our money to, right? And I know only a few people know these things, but they don't know everything. And I think one of the biggest things for me, I was like, nobody ever taught me how to do my own taxes, right? And we all know once a year we got tax season, and everyone's running here and they're running there, and they try doing it themselves on TurboTax or Credit Karma or whatever. And I feel like that's one thing where I never really learned how to do, what to look for. How can I make my refund as big as possible? Something like that. And I thought it was interesting. I was like, man, like I wish I would have learned how to do my taxes, right? Because, one of my coworkers was talking, and he was just like, and he's not from the U.S., he's from a different country, and he was saying that like, the American system is kind of based off of living in debt. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, think about it. You go to college, you're in debt. You have to say, most people that go to school, 4-year school, they unless they work or they're fortunate enough to get an athletic scholarship or financial scholarship or something like that, the majority of people are going to be in over between $60,000 and $100,000 worth of student loan debt, right? When you buy a house, you're in debt. Usually you have to take a loan out for that, something like that. When you get a car, you're in debt. Credit cards, you're in debt, right? There's so many things that we go in debt for, and the system is just telling us we got to pay off these things. And it's just funny that this topic kind of came up, that the last like 2 weeks I've seen like stuff on like Twitter or Instagram where like people are talking about, I have $80,000 in student loan debt. I just paid off over the last 4 years like 25,000 of it. How do I still owe $94,000 worth of student loan debt? And like, you're just like, obviously you got interest, but like, how does that make sense, right? That we're putting ourselves in so much financial debt just to, go to a 4-year institution. And not saying it's not worth it, because it 100% is, but what, in terms of college, what I think one of the biggest things that I learned was how to, one, take care of myself, live on my own. I found out who I was as an individual. And, coming out of college, like nobody really taught me how to budget, right? Nobody taught me about the whole financial literacy and things like that. I learned how to play soccer. I learned how to, manage time in terms of studies and school and soccer and things like that. But never really had, there wasn't a course on it, right? And I feel as though like, there are a lot of things that, we need to know as people coming out of college or coming out of high school that should prepare us for the next thing, and I think one of the biggest things is how to do your taxes, how to balance a checkbook. What is a checkbook, right? What else is there? I mean, there's so many different things on different ways that we can be successful in terms of life instead of just kind of learning from mistakes. And to be fair, you don't have to. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to college. I feel like people should. If I had kids, I would definitely tell them that you should go to school. But there are so many different other avenues that we can take. That's not going to cause us $100,000 in student loan debt with like a 15% interest. So we're going to be buried in student loan debt for the rest of our lives. You can make a 6-figure income on in a certain type of trade, whether plumbing, pipe fitter, whatever. Electrician, there's so many different trades that you could do that don't require a university degree to make a 6-figure income. Obviously you could be an entrepreneur and you could start your own business or different streams of incomes, things like that could always give you 6-figure income. There's so many different avenues that people can take that can fulfill the life that they want without going to a 4-year degree and causing so much financial debt. And, I think there's a lot of things that I think parents teach their kids, but sometimes, kids don't necessarily listen to their parents. It's always that time where, like, your parents can tell you the same thing for, like, 8-9 years, but it only takes one stranger who they look up to say it once and now it clicks, right? And it's interesting and it's weird. But, yeah, like the whole, college route, I said, I love college. College was awesome. If I could go back and do 4 years again in Providence, I would in a heartbeat. But, looking back on it, right, being 20, 28, 29 in a week, I'm like, like what could I have learned more that would have prepared me for life after? And I think the financial side of it is probably one of the biggest things, and not even talking about being a business major or dealing with math, but like I said, the tax thing, right? How does credit work? I think that's a huge thing that a lot of people don't know. Like, how does my credit score work, right? Obviously, now I know that there's a part of it that has to do with how long you've had credit, like the history of it. There's good credit, there's bad credit, minimum payments, doing the interest rates on credit cards, things like that. What loans, apply to that. I didn't know this till after the fact that, like, you should probably keep less than 30% of your credit limit. Like, you shouldn't spend more than 30% of your credit limit. Like, I had no clue about that stuff. Things like that are huge for, people that are young coming out of college that a lot of people don't know or can't teach us because they don't know themselves. So that for me, I was just like, man, like, I wish I would have known all this stuff earlier. Like, I wish I'd known how to budget, like taking my expenses, figuring out what I'm paying each and every month for a thing, what I need to make, how much do I want to save, things like that. I think those are important classes that should be taught. And I don't know how you jam, it seems like a simple topic, but like, how do you jam all that into a full semester that's worth 3 credits to help somebody grow? And it's funny because I was talking about it. I was like I said, Providence College, Catholic school, me being at 28 years old, almost 29, I couldn't tell you who has the caves. Somebody got some caves. Could be Plato, Aristotle, one of them. Somebody got some caves over there, and the rings of whatever and this stuff like that. And there's no disrespect to anyone that that teaches this stuff, but I'm just like, for me, that wasn't my study. Like at Providence, when I was there, you had to take this class, Development of Western Civilization, for 4 semesters, and it was a 5-credit course, and you couldn't graduate without taking that course, right? And within that course, we had to go, there was a literature part, there was a theology part, there was a philosophy part, and there was a history part, right? And, a lot of my friends that I went to school, they went to Catholic school, so they already know this stuff, so it was a little bit easier for them. Me, I didn't, so I was trying to figure out how all this works, who's who, trying to make sense of it, maybe apply it, right, to figure it out, and it just didn't click for me, right? And I struggled because, not that I'm like, how is this going to benefit me once I'm done college? It's just like, there wasn't an interest in terms of what I wanted to do. Like, I knew going into it that I wanted to be a professional soccer player. So I knew that everything that was related to soccer was my main focus. And I had to go to school and be halfway decent at school to be eligible to play soccer. So my thing was like, all right, well, let me just put the time in so I can make sure I'm eligible to play. That was my mindset, right? And for me, before the injury and things like that, I was like, man, I'm going to be doing soccer for the rest of my life. Once I'm done playing soccer, I'm going to coach soccer and call it a day, right? And that was my mindset. Obviously, things change and life changes and, things happen, but I can't, even if I was a business major, right? I had to take, different math courses and things like that. And me and math weren't, it was a hate and hate relationship. Like I hated math. I wasn't good at math. I tried really, really hard just to get like a C minus. You know what I'm saying? Like it just didn't come natural to me whatsoever. And I was really trying to do my best just to make it work. Um, but I think, I don't know how, if colleges or if they could itemize or prioritize what somebody wants to do and make it that specific. Because think about it, like I went once I changed my major to sociology. In my head, I was like, well, if soccer doesn't work out, I'll just be the next Dr. Phil. You know what I'm saying? That'll be the easy thing. But doing more research, I realized that I would have to go back to school, get my master's degree, put myself in more student loan debt than to pursue a career as like, whether it's a counselor or specialist, somebody that somebody could talk to. And I'm just like, I'm not interested in doing that either. Like I did my 4 years. I have $20,000 worth of student loan debt that's not getting any less anytime soon. Just like, why would I go back to do more work? And it's funny because I was never the best student in the world, but you literally couldn't pay me to go back to school. That's how bad it was. I mean, if you gave me $1 million, I'd probably do it. But outside of that, probably not. And I think it's just so many things that I feel like kids are missing out, that they need the everyday tools of life to be successful. Like I think communication skills is a dying breed for sure. Like even now, like with what I do or when I interview people, I mean, some people don't even know how to have conversations, and you're interviewing for a position. You know, in a conversation, I'm definitely not going to hire you. You can't have a conversation with me or hold a conversation, right? I think finding interest in other people is super important, and trying to figure out what makes them tick or stuff like that. I think another thing that a lot of sometimes, I don't know all schools or whatever, but a cooking class. And guys, you could laugh at me all you want to, but you're able to cook. You're gonna set yourself apart when it comes where somebody's looking for somebody to spend the rest of their life with, because just like we know, the way to our hearts through our stomach. So if you're able to do the same thing for somebody else, trust me, that's gonna take you a long way. But like, I know people even to this day that don't even know how to boil water. They're 27, 28, 29 years old. I'm just like, how have you lived more than anything? And it's just like eating out and stuff like that. And, I think a cooking class would be absolutely astronomical. I think just to know the basic stuff on how to make food that you could eat for a while. You know what I'm saying? And there's that saying where like, I can show a man, I could give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but I could show a man how to fish and he'll eat for eternity. I'm like, listen, if we could show the next generation of kids what to do, how to do it and be successful, I think there'll be less problems in the world more than anything, right? I think it's super important. Communication skills, cooking classes, right? And there's different levels. Not saying you have to be a chef, but like you need to know how to at least feed yourself, right? Not having ramen noodles every night or Velveeta mac and cheese, and just being able to kind of set yourself aside to to be able to cook, and they have different varieties. And I mean, think about it, how many different cultures are there in this world? Just a ton, right? You look at every individual culture, from not just here in the U.S., but you go to Mexico, you go to Canada, you can go to Brazil, you could go to Japan, you can go to India, you could go to England, Germany, Portugal, Ghana, Ivory Coast, South Africa, Turkey, Israel, Russia. Like, there's so many different cultures with so many different foods, and like for me, obviously maybe it's just me being older, but like I would love to be able to learn something from every different culture and be able to have that for my own, right? And being able to broaden those horizons and different aspects of life. I think that would be an awesome trait to have. But how can the university fit all this in? I mean, I think there's basic things that people need to know, right? And depending on the university, they have to teach their philosophy on what education is, whether they're a religious denomination or just a public school, whatever. But like, we have to prepare these kids for the next step in their life. And I think I said in a couple episodes before, it was just like, I met kids freshman year, didn't even know how to do laundry. Like, what? How do you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you got to clean your clothes, make it up after your bed, things like that. And it's just such transferable everyday skills that I feel like a lot of people are missing nowadays. I'm just like, how can we fix that? feeding yourself is one thing. Another example, how to change a tire. I know a lot of people that don't know how to change a tire or even put oil in their car, right? I mean, those are things that I think if you're driving a car, you should know all these basic things by far, right? How to change the oil, how to change a tire, how to change a headlight or tail light, because those go out all the time without us even knowing. More times than not, then you get pulled over and you're just like, I had no clue, right? There's so many small things that I think a lot of people don't know. And then, like I said before, there's going to be at some point when your support system, your mom, dad, uncle, brother, whatever, it's not going to be there, and you're going to have to rely on yourself, and or even change a battery. I mean, I kid you not, I think last year I had to change my girlfriend's battery in her car, and I was like, I had no idea what to do, so I had to YouTube it. Found a YouTube video, learned myself, and did it, right? But now that's a skill I have for the rest of my life, that I know how to do it and things like that. And there's so many different things that are self-fixable that you don't have to outsource your money to. Where if you're able to do it yourself, like doing drywall, right? If you're looking to renovate a house, or like make an outlet, if you're a plumber, like there's so many different small skills that I feel like to make the well-rounded human being that can, one, provide for themselves, but also provide for their family, or things that are missing. And I don't know how you put that in a class, or how you put that in a major, or that's just a general like studies type thing that you need to do before you graduate. I think that'd be a huge stepping stone, and that's the way that you change generations, is by teaching people how to not just live for themselves, but also teach people how to do it themselves. Right. I think it's one of the biggest things that I'm learning in terms of, my career path is like, I've, been pretty successful in terms of what I'm doing. Can I help somebody else be successful as well by being just as replicable as possible? And to be fair, it's not hard to follow a recipe to make lasagna. Right. You literally go to the store, you figure out what exactly you need. You have a measuring cup, and then there you go. Right. To change a tire, right? There's so many things that touch of us being resourceful that we can use nowadays, especially going on YouTube or typing in Google. You could pretty much find anything on how to do something, and specific to the car, year, make, and model, right? And there's just so many things that were just not there. I mean, to be fair, even for myself, like I'm always down for a new experience and learning something new. But if somebody in my family doesn't know how to do it, I'm gonna have to learn it by myself. And I think it's crazy to think about, right? We're 2020, and we got kids graduating college that can't cook for themselves, can't change a tire. And think about it, right? How many times do we see people on the side of the road, their tire got flat or got popped or whatever, or prime example, ran out of gas. I see that too many times. When you see cars, cars that ran out of gas, and it's like, how you run out of gas running the car? Like, don't you have a check engine light, or a little gas light that goes on when you're out? And having just a spare 2 gallons in your trunk that'll get you to the nearest gas station, right? Because miles per gallon. Say you got 20 miles per gallon, you got 2 gallons, or you got 40 miles. That'll get you to the nearest gas station. I'm sure of it, whether you're on the highway or not, right? And I think it's just small little life hacks that we're just not teaching people. And I think now, even just doing this episode, it's bringing awareness to me of like things that I need to make sure that I'm teaching my kids, and whenever that time comes, to help them be successful. Because I'm just like, there's no way that I'm gonna let my kid go off to college not know at least the basic skill on how to cook for themselves, how to do their laundry, clean up after themselves, how to change a tire, how to do their oil, change the oil in their car. Be fair, even cut their hair, right? I mean, I don't know, you can tell I did a bad job last time, but I've been cutting my hair since 2016. That's saving me $20 every 2 weeks. You do the math, it's like a couple $100 every year that's going to somebody else where you can do it yourself, right? I'm not saying it's easy or it looks good all the time, but it's a self-sufficient way that, if you're looking to save some money, learn a new skill. Right, every year we got to do our taxes. Learn how to do the taxes. Right, you invest in yourself. That might cost you $100. Learn how to do your taxes. You never have to pay somebody again to do your taxes. Right, and that's every year. Right, you just put $100 in to learn yourself. Why not? Right, and then why and people go back to school to do these different things and stuff like that. And like even for me, like I went to school to sociology, and I'm in the business world. Right, not that I don't not that I hated my degree or anything like that, but I'm just like, I'm using what I was already born with, or I learned on the way, to help me benefit other people in terms of leadership, or, the marketing side of things. And, it's just being able to replicate this back. And this didn't come with a 4-year degree. Do I have a minor in business? For sure. Do I remember anything about those business classes when I was in college? No shot. right? And it's no, and it's not like, I'm not trying to be mean. It's just it's like, I wasn't the best student in the world, and I can admit that. I had to work really hard to get the grades that I got, and I think I finished within my major to 3.0, everything included. It was like a 2.7 or something like that. I don't know, but it's I think one of the biggest things is, can we do something where we very itemize and like focus our attention on what these kids are going to need to be successful. And I think the biggest thing is like we got to I don't know how you do that in college, like maybe challenge them or like throw them obstacles their way or something, like where they see like the resilient side of them, if they could do it, not do it, whatever. But there's so much that I feel like we could do moving forward to change the landscape, right? To change the thought process. And I think the communication side of it is probably number one. There's a lot of people that I come in contact with that are just, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? But they're just socially awkward in terms of meeting somebody that's not their friend group, and having a conversation. I'm just like, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, I feel like with how technology is and everyone's glued to their phone nowadays and not be able to have conversation, it makes things a lot harder because those soft skills are never going to die. I don't care how good of technology we get moving forward. Even I get even frustrated myself because like if I'm looking into something and I have a question, I want to ask somebody in real time about what's going on, right? Like there was a point where I was looking to get a new car and I was looking like our Carvana, stuff like that, because it's easy, I ain't gotta talk to nobody. But like I'm like, well, I got some questions about the financing, or I want to see the car first before I make a decision, or can you tell me more about the car or the owner or whatever. But for me, I'm the type of person where if I can't get my questions asked in real time, I'm just not going to do it. It's just not going to happen, right? If you make me feel uncomfortable in one way, shape, or form about the buying process, I'm not going to do it, right? I mean, that comes to those soft skills. Because you have to realize at some point you're going to have to buy a car, which you're going to have to talk to a sales representative. At some point you're going to have to buy a house, you're going to have to talk to a real estate agent. You're going to have to get X, Y, and Z as you get older, and like you have to be able to have conversation, and just being able to communicate on different levels is, I think, is super important, that a lot of people are taking for granted, because those soft skills are never going to go away. Whether especially like you talk about sales side of it, this face-to-face interaction with people, that I don't care who you are, right? Why do you think all these different companies outsource to have these sales representative knock on your door, call you over the phone, stand in a retailer, stuff like that? Because we see commercials all the time, but do we act on it? No. We see billboards all the time, but do we act on it? No. Right. And the more you think about it, it becomes harder and harder to get the customers to buy in. But if you have somebody who's a good person, good personality, and they'll be able to answer your questions in real time, especially if it's a product that you've been thinking about getting anyway, it's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you do it? Right. And I think that's super important, because like those soft skills on having conversations with people is going to change the way. I don't care pandemic or not, that face-to-face interaction is never going to die, in my opinion. Right? You can sit behind a computer all you want to, but an ad could pop up for Xfinity. I'm just like, nah, because I know me, I don't want any contract, I don't want any fees. If you can set it up for free on top of it, I'm gonna do my best to get that installation fee kicked out of there as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things that I have questions about. I'm not just going to do something from a flyer that I see that got sent to my mailbox, because usually if I didn't got my name on it, throwing it in the trash anyway. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm sure all we do that too. Coupons, stuff like that you get from the grocery store, yeah, throw it away, right? And we do that religiously. But being able to have that face-to-face interaction is important. And even if being an entrepreneur, trying to own your own business, things like that. I feel like they don't teach that in college, right? They don't teach you how to be an entrepreneur. It's like a self within drive of you want to be greater than a couple book in a classroom or a professor lecturing. And there's so many different books out there, right, that people can invest their time into. It's going to tell them everything that they need to know and how it's going to benefit them and the steps to get there. And you have to think that 1% in the world, or the wealth in the world, comes from people that are willing to do things that other people aren't, right? And, you have to think about it. People that have Facebook or, Tesla or Apple or whatever, these creators of these companies were willing to work 6, 7, 8 days in a row, not have a weekend to be successful. And now their freedom of time, freedom of money is out, whatever. But it's a lot of those things change the perspective when you get into it, because I know a lot of people that say they want to do this and they want to do that. And I feel like that college right there is what prepares people for that. They were like, yeah, I want to be an accountant. But when they get in that math class, they're not ready for all those, that whatever the case is, they die out, they quit, and they want to do something else, which is all good. But then you weren't ready for that. You didn't want it that bad anyway. And I think it's just interesting, right? How can we create the next wave, the next level of next generation of kids to be self-prepared? Is there a broad class where you learn how to do your taxes, you learn how to balance your checkbook, how to cook for yourself, how to change a tire, right? Or even high school is doing this, right? Obviously, there's basic things that we need to know. Like, obviously, we learn in high school about American history, what our past is like and things like that. You have to learn how to write papers and things like that. But another thing that I feel like a lot of people don't know is how to write a check, right? People can write 10-page paper but can't write their own check or know what to do, right? Or, they can write a 10-page paper but they don't know anybody else's history in terms of countries. Like, obviously, there's hundreds and hundreds of years of history that, the world has gone through, but how do we make that, that other people are well aware of what's going on? Like, I kid you not, I think one things that I actually remember from college, I was taking a Black Studies course. And I learned, I'll never forget it. I don't know why, but I never forgot that. I thought it was fascinating that Brazil had more slaves than the United States during the whole slavery period. I thought it was fascinating. I don't know why. I was like, oh my God, really? Because you learn about slavery so much in American history, and how the slaves got here and how they were treated in the plantations and Underground Railroad and civil rights and stuff like that. But I actually found out that there were more slaves in Brazil than here in the U.S. And if you think about it, for those of you that are soccer people, if you look at the Brazilian national team, right, there's so many different shades of Brazilian. Right? There's Brazilians that look like me. There's Brazilians that look like Tom Brady. Right? And then you have everything kind of in between. Right? And that's why it was so diverse, was because of how the slave trade was. Also, the different thing was that, Brazil treated their slaves actually as more of servants, indentured servants, didn't do the abuse that, we did here in the U.S. And I was like I said, out of everything that I went through in Providence, that's one of the things that always stuck with me, and I'll never forget it. And because I was always taught all about American history, but I never was taught about anybody else's history, right? And I thought it was very fascinating how that was. But it's things like that shape, and it's a piece of knowledge that would somebody on this, watching this or hearing this, benefit from? Maybe not. But, I think it's small things like that that fascinate us, because I feel like with the average kid, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know I felt this way, when you get bored in school, you don't retain the information. It goes in one ear, out the other. You memorize it for a few hours to do well on a test, and then you forget about it, right? Regardless, and maybe even within your major, same thing. Right. And that's why I think I did so well at sociology, because I could write a 5-page paper in 2 hours. That's not a problem. Right. But things that I was going to apply, and knowing me, I knew I wanted to play soccer. So not that I wasn't concerned with it, but I knew that all I needed to do was do all this so I could play that. And that's what it came down to, right? But there was even then, right, there were still so many small things that I didn't know coming out of college that I wish I did. That would have made my life a little bit easier, right? And I think I have a better understanding now, but a lot of people still don't understand how to even write a letter, or how to mail a letter, or how it's supposed to look. You see it in the mail all the time, but do you know how to write one? And those are the small things that people will be like, oh snap, I didn't know that. I didn't think about that, because everyone's already, it's a normal thing that you should know how to do this. But I don't know if there's many people teaching it in a class, right? We show kids how to do well on the SAT so that they can get into college, but do we ever tell kids when we're there what to do, right? We're sending kids off first time by themselves away from home, how to act like a normal human being, not going hog wild for the first time. And I think sometimes for me, it worked out. It worked out well because I did so many soccer camps, overnight camps at different universities or whatever. So I knew that I was away from home and I knew how to react and I knew how to act, because if I didn't act well, somebody was going to whoop my butt when I got home, right? And same thing kind of applied when I was in college. I knew that, like, not acting a fool and getting drunk on the lawn and passing out on campus or whatever were things that you're not supposed to do, because one, it makes you look bad, but also makes your parents look bad or whatever the case is. And it's just, I don't know, maybe, this maybe is a topic for another time, but like there has to be some type of curriculum that's just a life curriculum that, kids need to know to graduate. Like, you cannot graduate school if you can't make yourself a 3-course meal, because you need to survive, right? You can't go to McDonald's and Wendy's every night and think that's going to be okay. You can't graduate college on knowing how to do your own taxes. You can't go to college on knowing how your credit score is going to affect you, or what how your credit score works, or how the stock market, right? I think knowing how the stock market, I mean, for people that, whether people invest or not, who cares? But knowing how it works, knowing how what politics say affect it, knowing how the world economy affects it, right? Obviously, we've seen the pandemic, how it had an effect on all the stock market, almost going back to the Great Depression. Things like that. And like, to be fair, I have no clue. I just know that things weren't good. Things were shutting down. Maybe that had a correlating effect, but I personally didn't know, or maybe even to this day, still don't know how it's all intertwined, right? And I think things like that can make the difference, because having one person being able to teach us this stuff will allow us then to relay it to others. And then from there, it grows. And we're seeing progress of people being able to communicate well, understand how X, Y, and Z work in terms of stock, bonds, trades. I mean, think about it. People are going to retire at some point, right? Do people know coming out of college that they should probably start a retirement fund? A Roth IRA, how that works, the penalties involved, they take money out early, how much they can put in it, a 401k, how does that work, right? All these things that a lot of people don't know about. And to be fair, you can start whenever you want to, but the earlier you start, the better it's going to be and the bigger return you're going to get. So why not start now, right? And nobody's telling us these things, right? Because I don't think I had one professor in high school, college, whatever, say how the retirement works. What do I do when I retire? What do I get from the government, right? What the kind of life that I want to live. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things that go into it, and there should be some type of course or whatever, but I think kids will take more away from that, using that stuff each and every day, than a course that's not going to help them once they get out of college. Right. And I think, all professors are important. All teachers are important because they're shaping the young minds. But there needs to be a specific course, lesson, curriculum, whatever you want to call it, that specializes in this stuff. And it's going to help people further on value their life and things like that. I mean, because think about it, I'm sure and I know a whole bunch of people that don't know how to do a lot of stuff, or if they even started saving, or how to save, or how much money to save. So I think we got to work on that. And this is a topic that can definitely go into more detail, and hopefully, you guys listening to this and watching this could come up with an idea, because I would love to do something like this or even learn, right, myself, somebody writing a book or whatever, a college course that'll help shape the people, because I would love to learn how to cook more food. I would love to learn how to do my own taxes. I would love to learn, so many different things that'll make my life better, that I don't have to outsource that to somebody else. And I think that'll be great. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate you guys again for tuning in, listening in, and taking the time out to listen to me blab on about so many different things in terms of life and my perspective. Feel free to share to your friends. Follow on all social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Keeping It Real KB. Shoot me an email, keepingitrealwithkb@gmail.com. So we're only getting started. It's going to get better. We're going to have more fun. Special guests will be coming in season 2. There's going to be so many good things coming. I'm excited to dive in deep with you guys. But I hope everyone has a great rest of your night. Enjoy your week. And let's just get after it. Many blessings, guys.